Welcome to A Grace to Grow. Dee and I are super excited to interview a couple today. It's just like family to us. The Bells, we're looking forward to getting their perspective and answer some answers to some questions. So baby, you want to start?
Sure. So welcome, Eddie and Varnessa.
Thank you.
Before we jump into the questions, would you all like to share a little bit about your family dynamics, where you're from, things of that nature?
Okay. Let me do it.
Go for it.
All right. So we are Eddie and Vanessa Bells. We are originally from Buffalo, New York, and we've been married for 9 years and 11 months. We will be married for 10 years next month. And we raise our 8-year-old nephew. We like to say we're just bonus parents to him. So that's our little buddy. And so I work full-time in corporate America as a buyer. And on top of that, I run an online business and I teach women how to build brand and launch online businesses as well.
And I'm a full-time entrepreneur, and we work with the app that allows people to get access to affordable legal services.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to jump right into these questions. The first one. As a married couple, what would you go back and tell a younger Eddie and Vanessa, and why?
Well, I would tell a younger Eddie to dream bigger, fail faster, fail forward, but also just work harder on me, because I realize that when I get better, everything around me gets better.
Okay. Awesome.
I would tell a younger Vanessa to save yourself and to love yourself. There were just a lot of things that I had questions on growing up, and I grew up in a family where if it's swept under the rug, eventually it'll go away, but it never went away from me. And so I would tell myself to, again, save yourself, because marriage is far more important to save yourself for marriage than it is to go out and experience the world. And again, to just love yourself and be confident in who you are.
Awesome. All right, so this next question would be as y'all mentioned, Eddie is a full-time entrepreneur. You are in corporate America and pursuing entrepreneur as well. So with that business going on in your family dynamics and having Joe there, how do you flow and how do you manage that as a couple?
I would say, we have to understand our priorities. The biggest thing for us has been boundaries. Knowing what the boundaries are, and how we want to do things in terms of time and structure and things like that. Knowing what's most important in certain seasons too. Because in one season it could be very important on this side, and another season it could be something else could be even more important.
Okay.
I think a way too that helps us, like Eddie's very big on like having a planner, having notebooks, journaling, things like that. So one thing that I think helps us is the fact that we're constantly looking at our calendars and making sure that they flow together, that they sync together, so that we're aware of maybe when he has like trainings or anything to do, okay, that's my time to take the load and focus on Joe or focus on things like around the house. So we're constantly even like communicating just through like our calendar, so that we know what's a priority for us.
Okay. So as it seems you all have a very busy lifestyle, what does rest look like in your home?
For me, rest definitely it's been a challenge, but I have gotten a lot better with rest. I kind of came in with this mindset of all hustle, no sleep, but that don't work for me. And so I just remember praying, really just asking the Father, just for clarity, even just concerning my business. And he told me the thing that I lacked was rest. And so for me, I've just been listening to my body more, going to sleep when I know that I'm really tired. And in that, I've had more clarity to hear from him and just to understand like what's next in the direction of just, my business.
Yeah, for me it's quite the opposite. I have a tendency not to go to sleep, but to fall asleep.
Okay.
My mind is just always going. I'm always just constantly nonstop. I know I probably need to rest, probably a little bit better, but it seems to work for me. So like if I find drool in my books or something, then I'll know that I fell asleep reading.
Oh, let me switch some up right here. I want to ask, because this is a challenge that I have. Totally unscripted, but how do you discipline yourselves and what does it look like when you communicate about what you have planned in your planners? Do y'all have like a come together and say, hey, this is what I got going on today? Because you mentioned whoever have the light load that they take on more. So share with me how that look like when y'all communicate that.
So one thing that we have in our calendar, and I can't say that we live up to it every single day, but we do have an alert that goes off where it's like plan the week with Eddie and Vanessa, and so that will that kind of like is like a signal for us to say, okay, what does your week look like? And so he'll have different things that come up because he's like a regional director for his business, and so for him he has like a lot of trainings on his schedule. So he'll say, hey, what's this day look like, and he'll give me the dates, the times, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. So then I'm putting it into my calendar, just for like, I have 2 calendars, so I put it in my calendar and then he'll ping it to my calendar just so that I'm aware of what it is that he has going on. So I'll know, okay, well, he has like 4 hours set that he has to do training. This is my opportunity. Okay, maybe I'll take Joe out somewhere or just keep him quiet because he's very intense on video games. But, it's just the opportunity to know when one of us needs to kind of take on a different load because, either he's working on his business or I'm working on mine or something like that. So we set notifications in our calendars as just something to trigger us to make sure we have a conversation.
Okay.
Good. I would just say planning is like everything she said is right on. Like even to the day, I'll remind like, hey, remember we have this, or remember I have this, or what do you have for today? But also planning, like she said, planning is so critical. I kind of live by if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
And that's so good. And I know for me and Ken, one of the things that he helps me because I'm a go person and he sees when I need to rest. And he'll just tell me and I was like, no, I'm good. But then it's like, okay, no, pause for a moment because at the end of the day, if I don't get that rest, it's going to affect the entire family. Mm-hmm. So that's good. Okay. Another question. What would you all say is the key to moving beyond the bumps in the road, failures, or life unexpected moments?
The biggest thing is making sure that we remember that your spouse is not your enemy. So we have to work together. If we don't work together, we'll fall apart. We have to really remember that we can get through anything together.
That's true. And just always going back to the foundation of like, why did we get married? I remember one time, I think it was Dr. Miles Monroe, he said, if you don't know the purpose of a thing, abuse is inevitable. And that has like always like stuck with me. And it was very early on in our marriage that I actually heard that. And so for me, I'm just always going back to what's the purpose of our marriage? Do we get it right all the time? Absolutely not. Do I have an attitude? For sure. But, it's just definitely going back to, why are we here and what is the purpose for our marriage and what glory is God going to get out of it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so before we close, I have a question that going back, telling yourself to dream big and fail. Right now, over the years, all the way up to this point, at what point you realize that say, hey man, I'm beginning to see this thing work the way it's supposed to? And name maybe one thing that you really had to do. And I'm quite sure you might say communication, which has been a current theme here with you all, but at one point you're like, man, okay, we're not going back to that old way of disagreeing and then not communicating forward.
What was the one thing? I'm trying to think.
Okay, well maybe I can do this. We had a moment, like we had a real bad disagreement and then we had a moment like, okay, we have to stop there. And that moment caused us to be like, it doesn't matter in our conversation. We're not gonna allow anything to disrupt our peace. So like, what is the that point of no return to going back to saying, hey, some of the things that you used to do that you don't do now?
I remember there was a time, and I'm trying to actually, I can't remember the time frame or how long ago it was, but I just remember a time we had quite a disagreement, and I was beyond frustrated, and I just felt like I don't need this. And I remember literally trying to leave, and I was just like, I'm done, I'm good, like, don't you worry about it. And what he did was, you know, he's like, no, come on, let's talk about it. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm leaving. Like, I threw some stuff in the bag and I was like, I'm out of here. And I remember he came after me and he like put himself in between the garage door, like in me, and he would not let me get out of the house. And he was just like, no, he was like, we are going to sit down, we are going to talk, and we are going to understand each other. And he was just like, and we're gonna have a different tone in how we talk, because I learned that my tone can, it can make him, it can shrink him in how he feels. And I didn't realize that. And so it was in that moment where he like stood in the way of the garage door that it was just kind of like, okay, we gotta have a better way of how we talk to each other and how we handle things.
Awesome.
I mean, she said it. Tonality is everything. How you say it is more important than what you say, because you could say something that is tough for somebody, but if you say it in a loving, correct way, then it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation.
Absolutely.
I learned to say to him, if I'm upset about something, I'll be like, can we have a talk? So I'm already preparing him, but I'm also at the same time preparing myself for my tone, because there would be times he would say something and I would just like fire back and it would be my tone. And you know, Eddie's not a confrontational person, so he'll just kind of be like, okay, I'm gonna walk away because I want peace in my house. And me, I'm just like, oh no, like I'm gonna say this and that and the third. So for me, it's like, hey, you know, we need to have a conversation. And that way it prepares him, but it puts me in a frame of mind of like, watch your tone.
And also, I gotta be prepared that if I don't like what she says, not to be defensive, but to respond and not react, and listen to understand, not to be understood.
Awesome.
Man, so in line with what we really want our community at Grace to grow, to really be a part of, you know, to timing. So wonderful.
One last thing.
Okay.
So you all have been married almost 10 years next month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
When you hear the word marriage, what, in one or two sentences, what do you think about it? Is it something that, you know what, I had no idea life was going to be like this? Is it more than what you expected? Just in your own terms, just share something briefly.
Okay, so the 26-year-old me, marriage is crazy, and there's absolutely no way I was gonna do it. But now the 36-year-old me, to hear marriage, especially marriage God's way, especially when God is in the center of it, it's a beautiful thing. It has its challenges, but I would choose marriage in the frame of mind at the 36-year-old rather than the marriage at the 26-year-old.
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, it's more work than I expected. However, the rewards far outweigh the work that's involved. So, you know, just understanding that it takes some work to put two different lifestyles, two different backgrounds, all that together,
yes, sir.
And be able to operate on the same page. But it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks
we
for
definitely
having us.
look forward to future segments with the Bells of Grace to Grow.